Everybody. So, um, everyone's doing well. Um, Today I was at Ashdown Forest with Cassie, which is where the Winnie the Pooh book series was. I guess it was the area that it was inspired by for AA Melm, and it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. But it made it not possible for me to be here to do a live broadcast. But I wanted to do a taped broadcast, but I wanted it to be something that you could really use all week long. So after kind of mulling it over, I thought, I wonder if I could go through and think of some of the main lessons and the main things that come through with spirit over and over and over again with people's guides, not just my guides, but other people's guides through um, readings that I do on the channel, readings that I do in private, things that I ask for myself and they come through. And I could think of probably 30 or 35, but I thought I'm going to do just 10 today because I thought these will, maybe they'll help in some way this week or just, as just going forward, maybe it will help. Um, so these are all messages that have come through from Spirit for either personal readings, readings for myself, for family, messages for the channel that have come over again and again. And so I kind of narrowed it down to a 10 that I like. Like I said, it could probably be 30, 35, maybe 40, but because there are similar things that come through over and over again. But this is a good place to start. So one that comes through over and over again. So number one, I would say, and these are in no particular order, by the way. They're not like this is the most often. It's not like that because they just come through over and over again in different ways. Um, One is that when it comes to figuring out what comes next for you, or what your next hobby is, or what your next career is, or what your next, chapter looks like, the one thing they always say is that no joy and no curiosity is too small to follow. So whatever that is, follow it because you don't know where it leads. And if anything, it leads to, following your joy and following your curiosity leads to a higher vibration. And that helps everything. That helps everything. So that is one thing that comes through over and over and over again when you're going into that next chapter or that next thing. No joy, no curiosity is too small. Follow it. Follow it. um Number two is that no one gets away with anything on this plane. That you yourself, your higher self is your judge. And I've explained it before as kind of someone, if it was here, it would be someone who gets drunk, does things that aren't out of character, not like them at all, and then they sober up and they know what they've done. It's a similar thing. That's kind of how it's been explained to me and how I understand it. And that's kind of the example that I give as what it's like for a higher self, your higher self, to look at what you do as a human and what you don't do as a human, right? What kind of being that judge, but you yourself are the judge. And so, and all of us have a higher self, a spirit self consciousness, right? That is looking on, and none of us escape that. It's there. It's always there. Everything is recorded, taped, used for our benefit. But the idea that people get away with things on the earth plane, that may be the case, but in the spirit realm, nobody gets away with anything. It's all laid bare, and your higher self is your own judge. And so no matter what you're like here, your higher self is the same. It's this very um, kind, loving, compassionate, um, joyful, um, uh, fair, understanding, loving part of you. And that's always that way. And it isn't tainted or changed by anything that happens here. That's the human self, the human part of us. And that's the part of us that is watching as our life is played before us. And that doesn't change. That doesn't change. So your higher self is your judge. And so nobody gets away with anything. So that's something that has come up again and again and again. Along with that, number three is do not judge anyone else's journey. Um, we all have our own reasons for being here. All of us have our own reasons for coming here and being here. And some has to do with past lives, some has to do with other people, and some has to do with ourselves. But we know what that is. And so, as an outsider judging someone else, you cannot possibly know what is going on when you see something. And I mean, we live in a very, very judgmental time, right? And an easy judgmental time because you can put yourself out there without even putting your name on it. You could just put your judgment out there. But that it's not very wise of us to judge somebody else's journey because we just don't have all of the information. We haven't walked in their shoes. We don't know their past lives. We don't know what's going on there. And that means people that are we think are yucky, ugly, whatever those things that they're doing are, but also for the people that we might feel pity for or compassion to the point of pity, right? If someone's in a really, really downtrodden experience, we may be seeing it and it's okay to feel compassion or even to want to help, but to also understand that we don't have a full understanding of it. And that's not to make us escape any responsibility for being compassionate and being kind on our end, right? Because we're coming across this and then it's on us. How do we respond? How do we react, right? So with people that maybe we would feel a lot of compassion for, leaning over into feeling pity for, that is somewhere we should really be careful about going because we don't know the whole story. In many readings, they've shown people that are in for example, a situation where they need to be taken care of. So they might have a really serious physical disability or a serious mental um, disability. So they're maybe not able to care for themselves. In many of those situations, it's not only that they've come to experience something, but they've also come to teach other people, right? So these situations, all of these situations, we'll just say everybody's situation, mine, yours, everybody's, can be very complicated as to what we're doing here, why we're here, why we came here, why we're coming back. It can be very, very complicated and can involve past lives, the people around us, our own journey, our own fears, our own things that we're trying to overcome. And so withholding judgment is a very um, it's something that it holds grace within it because we don't know. We don't know. And so just holding that space for someone or holding that grace, giving that grace to somebody because we don't know. We really, really don't know. So that is another thing. So to not judge. Um, so number 4 is to when we're looking for, so one of the main questions I always get asked is, why am I here? What are my lessons? What am I learning? What am I trying to learn? What's going on here? Why am I here? What's my life purpose? Things like that. To know the lessons as to why you're here or the lessons you should be learning in your life, look at the patterns. Look at the patterns in your life. My, I have a few patterns, but one of them is standing up for myself over and over again, having to stand up for myself. And what has happened over time is that I don't, and the other thing to note about this is that when you have these lessons that are reoccurring and they reoccur and reoccur, it isn't that, so once you learn the lesson, it isn't that they stop happening. It's that when they happen, you recognize them quicker, faster. So you don't really, you're able to cope with it in a much quicker, easier way, right? At first, it may be really difficult because they blossom and get bigger and bigger, and then you have to have a big thing on your hands. As you get better at it, you can nip them in the bud. Right. And so it's not that they stop happening. It's that you get better at dealing with them because those things are going to keep cropping up because that's one of your life lessons. And so you'll see these patterns over and over again, reemerging. And so it's not that they're going to stop happening for you. It's that you're going to get better at dealing with them. You're going to deal with them faster. So for me, sticking up for myself is one of those things. But now I even know the type of person that I shouldn't let into my life that's going to try to dominate me or try to put me in a corner in some way. I know how to kind of set boundaries and push that person back. Right. So I get better at it. Right. So 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 that's something else, is that when you're looking for the lessons of your life, what is the lesson? Why am I here? Or why does this keep happening? Look at the patterns, okay? Um, another lesson or another thing that spirit always brings up is to make choices consciously. To kind of in a way, I mean, if you're living in the moment, this is a very easy thing to do. But if you can slow things down enough to notice your own decision patterns, the way that you make decisions, if someone insults you, to take that moment and consciously think about how you will respond, or if you will respond at all. But taking that moment, that putting that space between whatever's happened and your reaction to it, that is making a choice consciously, or putting consciousness into the process of making a choice, right? So putting that space between it, that's something that comes up over and over and over again, making choices consciously, not just reacting, but acting in a way that's conscious, okay? I'm trying to think what number we're on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess. And this is because something you probably heard me talk about recently. Always remembering that there's higher order. Always remembering that higher order is at play. We always want to believe that we know exactly what's happening. We see what's happening. It's happening right in front of us. And to react to that. But to know that there is always a higher order at play that we don't see yet. And that can be really helpful when we see things that are disturbing or that are really hard to grasp and understand, that could possibly lead to something that's good. But there's always that at play, always. Because we're basically always moving into higher order, higher purpose, we're always moving into that anyway. It may not seem like it in the moment. Sometimes you can see it there. Sometimes you can, but a lot of times it's not always in plain sight, and it's kind of a waiting game, and it's trusting, right? That there's higher order here. And so that is something that has come up again and again and again, to remember that a higher order is always at play, always. Okay. Um, and the next one, I guess we're on 7, is um, that fear. When you come up against a fear, it's something to be faced, not to be hidden from, not to be avoided, because it may be key in a huge change or transformation in you. And fear is an illusion, right? It's a mind thing. It's something that we build up in our mind, and make bigger than it is. But if you can pinpoint the fear, the thing that thing that's holding you back, and face it head on, it usually is telling you exactly where. It's almost like a pinpoint where you can pin and flip a switch and see instant transformation or instant change. So your fear is telling you something. It's usually telling you something needs to change here. Something needs to be different. Or if you want things to be different, here's where you go. And it's scary. Fear is scary. But fears are, they are a clue as to what you need to do to change something big, or jump over a big hurdle. Okay. So fears, it's almost like run towards them, because that's where you need to go. And it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but that's come up over and over and over again in readings. The next one is an easier one to stomach, which is that each day is a new beginning. That spirit never wants you to think of things as like this linear thing where it's like, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then I reach my goal and I'm there. Spirituality and most things, most growth in our life is expansive. There can be things that are linear, like education can be like that, or job growth, or things like that are very 3D can be like that. But things that are kind of lifelong, like lifelong lessons, or lifelong, um, you know, uh, things that are more internal, spirituality, it's expansive. It just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, and there isn't an end to it. It just keeps going and going and going. And that with each new day, there is new promise of expansion, of things being, it's a new opportunity for growth. And I almost feel like it's almost like that's what it's for, is to show us that everything, that it's a cycle and everything keeps kind of renewing, and that it gives us a new opportunity, that the opportunities don't go away, and that we don't, there isn't a cutoff point where it's like, okay, you're done. You can't expand anymore. You're done. It's, as long as that sun is coming up every day, all of us have a new opportunity for growth, for change, for new, for new decisions. Now, your decisions can be smaller or bigger, right? Depending on what's happening in your life. If you're in prison, say if you're in prison, your choices are still there, but they may be a smaller area of choice, because some of your choices have been taken away, but you still have free will or free reign over that, the parts of your life that you still have free reign over, right? And you still have that area of decision. And depending on where you are in the world, right, in your life, you still have an area of decision free will is a spiritual principle. This plane is all about free will, whether it's small or big. It's choice after choice after choice after choice. Even the choice to just open your eyes in the morning, and get up. Yeah, that's a choice. That's a free will decision. But with each new day is the promise of a new beginning, a new start, another chance. And it's a reminder that we're in constant expansion, constant growth. Yeah, so that's another thing that comes up over and over again. The next one is that the one that I base my cards on, intention is everything. And here's the thing with intention is digging deep to find what the true intention is for something, because sometimes it can be a little, even you didn't think about it very much, but maybe this is why it's not working, but it may tell you why something is or is not working. For example, I've used this example before, but I'll use it now, but a new car, right? I want a new car, right? But what is the intention behind me wanting a new car? Is it because let's just say one scenario is my old car is fine, but it looks old, and all my friends have new cars, and the people in this area, a lot of people have new cars, and I really want a new car and so basically my intention is I want to keep up with other people. I want to show off maybe or prove that I belong there, right? So that's that in that scenario, that would be the intention, right? So let's take another intention. Let's say my car broke down and I have kids to get to school and I have to get to work and I need something that's reliable. And so I'm looking for a new car with that intention of I need something that is reliable to get my family to where they need to go, to get me to work every day. And I need that's my intention for looking for a new car, right? So it doesn't mean that things can't work out, in either scenario or both scenarios, but understanding intention and understanding where it comes from can really guide how you maneuver in your life. It can tell you something about yourself as well. So tracing back and looking, what is my intention behind this? I've used this so much for the channel, and it's really helped me to switch and change and kind of tweak things here and there, is seeing what is my intention? Well, if I do this, what is my intention? If I don't do this, what is my intention, right? It really helps me to navigate. And I think it's a great, great tool um, to, to dig deep and see what is the reason for this? And spirit works with intention. That's what they're kind of going on. Oh, and when you set an intention, you start to involve the spirit realm. And so knowing what that intention is very important. And when it's aligned with spirit, it's that much more powerful. So that is a big thing. Intention is everything. Intention tells you exactly how things may go and where things may go, right? And so the last one is that happiness really isn't what we're seeking. It's joy and contentment. And that is found within. And there are things outside of us. So happiness depends on things that happen to us. You get a surprise party, you're happy. So everybody forgets your birthday party, you're sad. But it's the things outside of you. So if things are going well outside of you, you're happy. Joy and contentment are inward things. It has no bearing on what's going on out here. So you can have joy and contentment even if it's a rainy day, even if everyone forgot your birthday, even if, you know, no matter what's going on out here, you can maintain joy and contentment inside. It's an inward thing. And I love the example, and I'll say Eckhart Tolle because it is Sunday, so I will say that. But a good example that he gives is the lake example, which is underneath, you know, down below. And by the way, joy and contentment, that's connected to your spirit, you know. So when you're in meditation, you're getting connected with that, you feel that peace inside, that calm and that joy that's always there. Joy is connected very deeply with contentment. Um, it's an inner peace kind of thing. So the lake example, at the bottom of the lake is always this stillness. There's no movement. It's just still. And there's nothing going on down there. It's just quiet. But on the top of the lake is boats and people and water skis and and whatever boarding, you know, and whatever waterboarding and storms and things like that. That's the top of the lake. And he uses that as the inner that inner contentedness or inner peace or inner state that we can achieve, and the outer, because the outer is always fluctuating. It's always either good or bad or moving, but it's always just passing by. And the inner state is what is constant. And that's the bottom of the lake, that quiet contentment within. And that can be achieved by meditating, but also just by being aware, just by being in the moment, being fully in, being fully embodied, right? Being fully there and fully aware and not lost in your head somewhere, being fully awake. And that is the place where we talked about earlier about making those really conscious decisions and conscious choices. When you're awake to everything, right? So, but this idea is that, and they've said this exact thing, is that happiness isn't what you're seeking. It's not what anyone is seeking. It's joy and contentment. It's that calm within, peace, calm, that feeling of contentment that you get, and you get glimpses of it when you get happiness. Something great happens, you feel for just a moment, you feel secure and like everything's okay. But that part of happiness can be maintained all of the time, but it's just inner work. You have to do the inner work to get there and then to maintain that. But that's really what you're seeking when you have those moments of happiness. That's what the glimpse you're getting. And but that is something that has come through again and again and again, is happiness is not what you're seeking. It's joy and contentment. And those things are found within. They're not found out there. Okay, so those are 10 that I could think of. And like I said, I could probably think of 10 or 20 more. So if you like this kind of thing, let me know and I will add more as we go on. In fact, I'm going to do another taped episode next week because I'm going to be on an airplane next week. But I'm kind of winding down my time here, and then I'll be back home and we'll be back to our normal schedule and a new show as well. So I look forward to that. But take care, everyone. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. And I will talk to you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.